You're not married, you don't have experience with marriage or anything like that. So it's like, all right, where are you going to pull that from? You're not even good at monogamy, but you're talking about polygyny. Again, it's great to have as a goal. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the reality is much different. That's why most men never, ever practice it.
Warning, viewer discretion is advised. The content, views, and educational material you are about to experience could challenge your belief, trigger strong emotions, and frankly, piss you off. This isn't for everyone. If you're not ready to confront new ideas, or if your feelings bruise easily, this might be the time to click away. Expect to be challenged, to think, and you might even want to scream at the screen. Proceed with caution, and remember, you chose to be here. Let's get it.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace. I am Coach Nazir.
And I'm Coach Fatimah, his wife.
We are 2 of the 3 founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships, as well as 2/3 of the authors of the book. Let's talk Polygamy Uncensored. If you don't have your copy, make sure you get it. With that being said, we come across a number of different scenarios and challenges that we had to overcome ourselves, but that we also hear from many of our clients and students, right? So we want to dedicate this video and likely this series about what you are doing wrong when it comes to polygyny. Now, we use the words polygyny and polygamy interchangeably. We know exactly what they mean. Polygamy simply means a spouse who has multiple spouses, whereas polygyny means a husband who has multiple wives. And that's what we're on and what we do and practice. So don't get confused. And yes, we are pronouncing it correctly. However, I'm gonna hand the baton to my wife, Coach Fatimah, to start. Now, if you don't have someone to take notes with, I strongly suggest you do so.
Yes, so this topic in this series of what you're doing wrong, initial marriage edition, we're gonna talk about communication. I'm gonna start by talking about how I didn't communicate about polygyny because I had a few issues. Now, I'm Muslim, so that wasn't the issue of it being okay with me because we don't cherry pick. Oh, I like this in Islam, I like that, but I don't like polygyny. Moving on, we don't do that, right? However, I had a few problems. I had a young husband. I had a husband that was good looking and a problem, and he applied pressure because not only what made him attractive to me, first and foremost, I mean, I was a hormonal teenager, so the obvious made me attracted to him. But later on, as I got to know him, I found out that he was really smart and he was very brave. So I was like, I think I like that. I think I want to spend some time over there. And I had no idea when I met him. I met him when he was 14, so I had no idea. However, because of that history, right, what I did was the wrong thing, which is what I'm going to share with you and probably not the guys. I'm going to share this with the women because this is usually our problem with polygyny is that we don't want to bring it up. We don't bring it up because if we don't bring it up, he won't bring it up and he won't ever think about it. That's the lie we tell ourselves. That's the lie we tell ourselves because our lack of communication is going to get in the way of our healing once it does happen. So accountability is major. So I had to sit there and go, you know what, Fatimah, let's point one of them fingers back here because what I did wrong is that I didn't bring it up and I waited. Had I brought it up sooner, then the transition or the conversation and then the transition into polygyny wouldn't have been as painful. I'm here to tell you with all confidence, because I know me and when we know ourselves, we know our crap. So I knew that what I'll practice, which is this really great idea to do, is absolute complete avoidance. I won't talk about it. And once he gets in it, I'm thinking, I mean, that'd be a long time ago. Later. Later sped up real fast. So what I did was I said, well, avoid everything surrounding it. I ain't gonna worry about the pain of it. That's logical to me. And it wasn't. It wasn't rational. It wasn't practical. It wasn't sustainable. And what I ended up doing, I ended up shutting down my husband's voice because I'm like, this is how this is gonna go. And he didn't agree to none of that. He didn't say that. He didn't agree to it. And it was really harmful. So this is a self-inflicted wound that a lot of women create by not communicating at all.
That's definitely an important way to look at it, because similarly, when it comes to polygyny, generally speaking, I get people, and we get them all the time, like, well, you should talk about everything before marriage. Here's the facts. You don't know necessarily before marriage. Not every man knows before marriage. Not every man generally knows. Any straight man knows they likes women, plural. All right. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, polygyny sounds great. It sounds taboo. There are jokes about it with men, or they hush about it, talking around their wives who are jealous or what have you. But having a respectable, decent conversation about it is important. Here's why. If you know this before marriage, of course, you should bring it up. The people that generally know it before marriage are those who've already been married, and either it hasn't worked out or they've learned in marriage that that's what they desire. Because again, you're not married, you don't have experience with marriage or anything like that. So it's like, all right, where are you going to pull that from? You're not even good at monogamy, but you're talking about polygyny. Again, it's great to have as a goal. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the reality is much different. That's why most men never, ever practice it. All right. So communication. One is to have that conversation, find out who you married. All right. It's funny because there are different exercises that men are being told now to really try to find out who they married. Many men married inexperienced, or may have married young. They don't know. So some are being told, listen, this is what you should do. Take off 3 weeks from your job. If you work a job, take off 3 to 4 weeks. All right. Take whatever family medical leave act, or if you have some personal time off, take it off, and then they say, let your wife know you've been laid off. You don't have it, and stay around the house and try to do some things or what have you, and see how she begins to treat you. See if things change. All right. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I get what they're trying to get to, but those are just different exercises to actually test and find out who you're married to. One of the other tests is actually having the ability to converse when it comes to polygyny. All right. Now, that generally lies in the man's hands, because he's going to be the one practicing polygyny. My wife does not practice it. I practice. I'm married to multiple wives. So it's not necessarily on her. It doesn't preclude her or exclude her from ever bringing the decision forth. Now, here's the thing about communication. Many times we think that communication or delaying it is providing compassion, when in reality is providing confusion. Because if you reach a point where you want to practice polygyny, or you want to expand your family, right, then that communication helps provide clarity. Clarity is either going to let you know if you have cooperation or you don't. But if you delay it, that's just going to cause confusion, because you're not going to feel good with yourself. And most men generally prefer and expect as a value respect. That tends to be most men's love language, respect. That's very high, right? However, if you don't demonstrate the ability to communicate properly, then you're not respecting yourself. It may be challenging to have a conversation, but you do challenge yourself as a man, right? All right. It may be difficult to really get some clarity or paint a vision where you are, especially if you're somewhere where other people don't practice it, or you don't have access to the tools, or for whatever reason, you haven't yet got our book. So it may be challenging, right? But delaying is not for compassion. It would just really lead more to confusion. Yeah. So either A, have the conversation before anything is already in process or in play, or before you're married, if that's the thing, you're there, or at least after getting married, right? Because you need to know who you actually married. That's important. And then how to move forward. Because if you're already demonstrating that you're able to take care of things in monogamy, and you're able to communicate effectively, then you're able to provide some type of clarity on the vision of what the future looks like, whether that's a few years from now, a few months, whatever it may be. That right there, even if it's a difficult conversation, will continue to have your respect in play. Yeah. All right. So that right there is what many men are doing wrong by not communicating, practicing avoidance, or, just not being that person who was assertive and strong and moving forward that initially attracted his first wife to begin with.
Right. Right. And I agree with that 100%. I was thinking about that. I'm like, who is this guy? He seems different. And you know why women grapple with it? They forget something. They forget that their husband never did this before. So they don't have it yet. You're supposed to be on. You're supposed to be on 10. You're supposed to know what you're going to do. And that's not how he did it with you. That's not, you weren't like, got this when we got married, right? And I wasn't like, so then we hold them to that when they marry again. You're supposed to have it because they decided with you too to get married. One thing that I wish that I had known back then. Not to reinvent the wheel, but something that is so important to me now and I value is, and this is something very new, is sympathetic silence. Sympathetic silence is when our husbands are talking to us about something that's difficult, something that they might not have decided on doing or need help with, because they need help sometimes. They need help. So they're not going to come up to us and go, you know what, I really need your help today. They're not going to do that, right? Because they're men, but it's there. So in those conversations or when those topics came up, I wish I had shut up and offered not just silence, but sympathy in my silence. Because then I can sit there and I can process things and know that this is not easy for him. And if I love him, it's not easy for me because it's not just happening to me. Example, we talked about this a long time ago, D.L. Hughley. It's one of my favorite stories that he shared, his life experience with having lived through having a child, I believe outside of his marriage. And his wife said, if you had to come to me, I could have helped you with it.
I knew that one day I would be man enough to tell my woman what had happened. I'm so f***ed up. Finally, one day I tell my wife, you know what she said to me? I wish you'd have told me and we could have went through this together.
It wasn't that he was crying and he was upset. That was a heart softener for me. However, it was the response of his wife. She didn't say, oh, you should have told me, and I can't believe you did this to us and you broke us with that. She didn't do that. She said, I wish you would have told me so I could help you with it, so I could help you through it. Because she knew by helping him, she was going to help them as a couple. And I love that she said that. That's probably one of the most mature, well thought out responses to a man in pain that I've ever heard. And I really, it just really changed me. It changed something in me that said, you know what, Fatimah, you screwed that up too. So don't go talking about what other people did, because you need to hold yourself accountable. And that's ongoing. That's not in that moment. That's not in, oh, you should have did all that. That is for the rest of life, being accountable and seeing what hand you had in miscommunication.
Indeed, indeed. So that is what we think and know from personal experience. And of course, we work with many different clients, is what you're doing wrong when it comes to polygyny. See, I learned a long time ago when my mentor said, look, if somebody spent their life, they spent decades making the wrong decisions and messing stuff up, and then they put it in a book, wouldn't it be good to get that book to save yourself decades of errors and challenges and running up against the wrong information and making the wrong turns? Absolutely. So a wise person, they can learn from their own mistakes, but the real wisdom lies in learning from others' mistakes as well. So prayerfully, you were able to benefit. What we want you to do is to put in the comments below, wrong can help you get right. I know, whole sentence. Wrong
Do it.
can help you get right. Let us know you rock with us. We look forward to sharing more with you and also seeing you share your story of success, because representation absolutely matters. So we're going to leave you with GLC, which is
make sure you're growing intentionally, loving fearlessly,
and connecting on a higher level every single day. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
I'm a polygamous man. Yeah, I said it.
And I hated it when I found out.
Well, I kind of liked it when I found out.
Was it easy? Not at all. However, if you want to practice polygamy without destroying your family,
make sure you grab our book.
It's been called The Blueprint to Polygamy.
The link is in the description.